and joining us for this dialogue. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Coalition for Action on UN Resolution 1325 and on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden. I want to welcome you to this one-day dialogue meeting on participation of young people in processes that promote democracy and sustainable peace. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We are coming to you live from Hotel Africana, where we are socially distanced and observing all the COVID-19 standard operating procedures, and we will stick to that because we have a pandemic amidst us. But I wanted to recognize all of you that are here, of course, our conveners, COACT, and our stakeholders. In a very special way, I want to recognize the Assistant Commissioner, Youth and Children Affairs in the Ministry of Gender, my friend and brother Mondo Chateka. Thank you so much for joining us. Our other stakeholders in the police force, the Senior Commissioner of Police, Waso David. We have representatives from the UN Resident Coordinator's Office and the UN office here in Uganda that of course helps us to observe our UN resolution. So we want to thank you so much for joining us. And in this room we have a lot of young people, our youth ambassadors. I want to recognize all of you and thank you for being part of this dialogue. I will intermittently sometimes have the mask on or not. The idea is to send the message home to those of you at home to continue observing these SOPs because we have to manage this virus. But please note, because we're observing these SOPs, our speakers and our panelists later may not have their masks on, but everyone else in this room, as you will see on television, is actually wearing their masks. I want in a special also to recognize Ms. Patricia Munavi from Forward, who is one of our panelists. She will be joining us via Zoom and will be speaking to us a little later. So without taking more of your time, I want to welcome Ms. Robina to come and speak to us. Ms. Robina is the Executive Director, COACT, and will be making welcome remarks. You're most welcome, Robina.
Thank you, Morris. Take this off so my face can be seen. The representative of the Embassy of Sweden, representatives of the government of Uganda, and particularly the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and the Uganda Police Force and other MDAs in the House, representatives from UN agencies. We recognize the presence of the Office of the Resident Coordinator in Uganda, colleagues from civil society fraternity, representatives of the gallant youth of Uganda, the media fraternity, all invited guests, everyone viewing from your television at home or on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robina Rimbwa. I'm Executive Director of the Coalition for Action on 1325, and I take this opportunity to welcome you to this democracy dialogue. Our theme is youth participation in democracy processes to promote sustainable peace. Thank you for sparing your time to come to join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Coalition for Action on 1325, in short, COACT, and it's a deliberate acronym because COACT means acting together, is an alliance of women-led and youth-led organizations that work to promote inclusivity, gender equality, and women empowerment. We focus on the implementation of two agendas: the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, grounded in the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 of 2000 on women, peace and security, and the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, grounded in the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250 of 2015 on youth, peace, and security. We envision a peaceful world where women realize their full potential, and we exist to inspire the leadership of women and the leadership of youth, amplifying their voices and coordinating civil society action in building and sustaining peace in Uganda. We implement 3 interconnected programs. Our first program is to localize the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda in districts and communities. And I'm glad to say that this year alone, 6 district local governments have launched local action plans to implement the agenda. Then we have our women and leadership programs that builds the capacity of women for leadership and governance. And then we have our Youth Action for Peace program, which is the program that brings us here today. The Youth Action for Peace program, in short we call it YAP, aims to increase the meaningful participation of youth in leadership and governance and peace-building processes in line with the intentions of UN Security Council Resolution 2250 on youth, peace, and security. Globally, youth are a conceptual category that is frequently misrepresented in the discourse on peace and conflict. They are often seen as potentially dangerous subjects, and policy approaches often regard them as a problem. We call them noisy, we call them immature. Often, male youth in the age group of 16 to 30 have been observed as the main protagonists of criminal and political violence. And in many countries around the world, they are behind violent extremism. At COACT, we recognize the intersection between the Women, Peace and Security agenda and the Youth, Peace and Security agenda. Both agendas are premised on inclusion and participation of the marginalized. They address exclusion. They address inequality, and they address significant gaps in the international community's efforts to address the increasing complex challenge of preventing conflict and sustaining peace, of building inclusive societies through more comprehensive and inclusive approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, the Women, Peace and Security agenda and the Youth, Peace and Security agenda, and more recently, the Sustaining Peace agenda, grounded in UN Security Council Resolution 2282 of 2016, call for highly inclusive planning, program design, policy development, and decision-making processes for conflict prevention, resolution, and recovery. That is the only way we can build sustainable peace in Uganda. I was looking at that little booklet on your table about Sweden, and there is a line that says, after the Napoleonic Wars, peace arrived. That is a fundamental sentence. And among the factors that they list for their fast-growing economy is peace. So we need peace. So since May 2020, COACT, in partnership with the International Civil Society Action Network, ICANN, through their innovative Peace Fund, which Sweden is one of the donors, one of the contributors, we have been implementing an initiative titled Increasing Inclusiveness and Youth Participation in Electoral Processes in Uganda. It's focused on 3 districts of Kasese, Kabarore, and Ntungamo. And this is where we have now built networks of youth peace builders, some of whom are here tonight. The initiative aims to increase the capacity of young people for leadership and advocacy, increase their knowledge of democracy and electoral processes, and increase their skills in peace building. Following consultations with youth from the districts I have mentioned, COACT designed a comprehensive training program for young people from those 3 districts plus Kampala, the district of Kampala. And we engaged youth in a 4-day boot camp, leadership boot camp, that developed their capacity to recognize their leadership ability. And they left the boot camp charged to take up leadership to prevent violence and conflict. Early this year, we established the first ever Youth Elections Observatory Center. It had never happened in the world. It is a youth-led mechanism for preventing violence before, during, and after elections. We had the youth that we had trained accredited as election observers, and we deployed them in the 4 districts for conflict early warning and early response. And we established a call center here in Kampala so that whenever they saw any early signs of violence, they would call in and report. And we had the police, we had the Electoral Commission in the room to provide instant response. Some of you attended a dialogue in February in which we presented the report of the findings of our youth elections observation. The findings indicated that youth face challenges to effectively engage in processes that promote democracy and sustained peace. And some of the challenges include discrimination on the basis of their age. And young women particularly face double discrimination by the fact that they are young, so they are discriminated by the fact of age, but also by the fact of gender. We also found limited awareness of the youth on the existing opportunities to participate, their lack of exposure, the lack of role models, the commercialization of politics, and the normalization of a culture of violence in our electoral processes. They said these are inhibitors for them. But the report also points out the low civic knowledge among our young people. They don't know their rights. They don't know the rights of government agencies. They don't know the responsibilities of the security agencies. They don't even know the role of an MP, of a member of parliament. The limited knowledge about the roles and responsibilities of stakeholders, the lack of a level ground for meaningful and inclusive participation, and the shrinking space for non-state actors to effectively participate in processes that promote democracy and sustainable peace. So, today we are here, number one, to discuss and find solutions to these barriers that have been identified. We want to dwell on solutions. What could I do? What could you do? What could my organization do? What could your organization or the institution you represent do to promote that participation of the youth? We would like to document what is being done by different stakeholders to promote meaningful participation of the youth. But we would also like to make recommendations, concrete recommendations, to increase youth participation. We must stop dismissing our young people as immature and only bent on causing trouble. We must stop describing them as inexperienced, as uninterested, as inefficient and apathetic and leaders of tomorrow. They are leaders of today. The youth are leaders of today. And we challenge them to take up leadership now, not next year. We believe that failure to acknowledge and recognize the potential of the youth as peace builders and as nation builders, as important political actors and decision makers, only increases trouble and conflict for this country. Excluding them is not a smart thing to do. So I wish to thank the Embassy of Sweden. Thank you for coming through for us to organize this event and make this dialogue happen. Thank you for prioritizing this dialogue. We are grateful for this partnership. We hope that we can continue holding such democratic dialogues even at district level and engage more youth for sustainable peace and development of our country. For indeed, peace is the foundation of development. I thank you.
I am trying to protect the next speakers, so I'll always lose a couple of seconds doing that. I think we can do better. Another round of applause for Ms. Robina. If you're just joining us on television, that was Ms. Robina Rubimbwa, the Executive Director, Coalition for Action on UN Resolution 1325. A spirited conversation you have begun, Robina, because that's why we're here. And we have the stakeholders, both the non-state actors and the ministry itself that supervises and superintends over these young people. And what a way to begin this conversation, Robina, by setting the stage for what is going to be an exciting conversation on youth participation in the democratic processes to promote sustainable peace. I want to invite our chief guest on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden, Daniel Johansson Arhem. He's the head of the section for political affairs, trade promotion, and communication at the Embassy of Sweden. Please come and talk to us. You're welcome.
Take this off. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, Madam Robina, for your very inspiring. Thanks.
You're taller than
I am. I'm really tall. Aren't I? Thank you, Madam Robina, for that very inspiring speech. I'll try to match it, but I'm not very hopeful, to be honest. Partners from COACT, government representatives present, representatives of Uganda Police Force and UPDF, and I believe also Uganda Human Rights Commission, UN agencies, representatives of civil society organizations, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, particularly NTV, and last but definitely not least, young Ugandans. I thank you all for joining us today to discuss the importance of youth participation in democratic processes to promote sustainable peace. We are glad to join hands with COACT, the Coalition for Action on Resolution 1325, to host this dialogue today. Maybe you should consider adding 2250 to your name to make it clear that you also engage on youth issues, which we're very, very happy about. Particular recognition also to those of you who have traveled from upcountry. We know that many have spent quite a few hours in cars and buses to get here, so thanks for that. My name is Daniel Johansson Arhem. As Maurice said, I head the political economic team at the Embassy of Sweden since 3 years back now. I'm here representing my ambassador, who unfortunately had to travel out of the country this week, so his regrets for that. This dialogue is part of Sweden's foreign policy initiative called the Drive for Democracy. It encompasses a wide range of interventions through development cooperation and diplomacy. It includes a series of dialogue termed the Democracy Talks, as you can see, that are held in Uganda and around the world with the aim of discussing how governments and citizens interact to strengthen democracy. We believe that democracy enables people to make their voices heard and gives them the right to influence and demand accountability. Democracy also provides the conditions to shape a common future in a safe and peaceful society. This is the fourth Democracy Talks dialogue that we're holding in Uganda since about a year back, and we thank COACT and our other partners here in Uganda for embracing this initiative together with us. Uganda is one of the youngest countries in the world, and our audience here is definitely a testament to that. With over 70% of the population below the age of 30, it has become extremely necessary for issues that affect young people to be prioritized by authorities. For this reason, it's becoming more important for the youth to be involved in Uganda's democratic processes as well. And I definitely agree with everything Madam Robina said about that, but I'll try to raise another few issues on it. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, UBOS, the unemployment rate for youth between 18 and 30 stands at 13.3%. This is higher than the general unemployment rate for adults, which stands at 9.2%. And according to our poverty analysis, the rate of youth outside the formal labor force stands, or rather stood, at 30% before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And we all know that that figure has most likely risen during the past year. The youth also face other challenges, including inadequate access to quality education, health services, and financing. These challenges, combined with the problems brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, have increased the vulnerability of Uganda's youth. One of the main challenges to development identified in the National Development Plan 3, the NDP 3, is conflicts, especially those triggered by insufficient creation of jobs in the economy, and particularly for the youth. The NDP 3 terms the challenge the youth bulge. I think that's a slightly derogatory term, unless you don't mind having a bit of a bulge. But it does present both opportunities and challenges. And in other countries you call it the youth dividend, and I would suggest that we try to switch to that for Uganda as well, because you are the dividend, not the bulge, with all respect to overweight people. But the youth dividend needs to be harnessed by encouraging youth to engage in meaningful political processes to enhance peace in the country. The recently concluded general elections brought the issues faced by the youth to the forefront of the discussions. Many young people have shared the challenges they face through discussions and engagement with decision makers. Many young Ugandans have also protested on the streets, which we've all seen, I think, to share their discontent, which has led to violence and the death of many young people. Unfortunately, the events in November leading to the death of officially 54 people do not seem to have been addressed through any form of meaningful reconciliation between Uganda's security forces and the youth who were affected. We do acknowledge the police report shared with a number of embassies on these events. We also regret that it hasn't been shared more widely, which would enable that dialogue. The rule of law and accountability are vital instruments for building a peaceful and sustainable society, as well as preventing and dealing with conflicts. SDG 16 promotes peaceful and inclusive societies, which includes equal access to justice for all and accountable and transparent institutions. Our hope is that this dialogue can bring the youth, civil society organizations, and security forces onto the same table, in the same forum, to discuss how to achieve and maintain peace around democratic processes. And I just saw in today's newspaper that something called the Global Think Tank Index ranked a number of Ugandan civil society organizations among the best in the world. So big encouragement to those CSO representatives who are here. You're doing a great job. We believe that this is important because you are a crucial building block in a democratic society. Today's dialogue falls under one of the pillars of our drive for democracy, the one promoting young people's engagement in democratic processes. Freedom of expression is closely related to this and is just as important. Unfortunately, freedom of expression is being curtailed by governments around the world under the pretext of curbing the spread of COVID-19. These efforts may have serious and far-reaching consequences on the enjoyment of human rights. We must ensure that actions to combat COVID-19 do not undermine democracy or its institutions. Globally, Sweden aims to tackle the challenges of democratic decline and shrinking democratic space by encouraging public conversations, such as this one, on issues that affect the public. We will continue to do all we can to be a strong voice and an actor for democratic development around the world. We're stepping up our efforts to protect democracy. We will provide support and sustenance wherever democracy is at risk and express criticism when it is eroded. I would like to thank the Coalition for Action on Resolution 1325, and may I suggest 2250, as our partner in this engagement. Your work to empower the youth in Uganda to take an active role in Uganda's democracy is essential for us to attain sustainable peace, especially around election periods. We hope that today's discussions between youth and government institutions, including security forces, is crucial to make sure that no lives are lost going forward. I also want to thank the representatives of Uganda Police Force, UPDF, for joining us here today. Having you here shows that there is commitment from you to find solutions to Uganda's long-term challenges, including accountability for abuses committed during election campaigns. Sweden remains committed to the principles of democracy in Uganda and around the world. We hope that this dialogue not only sheds a light on the challenges faced by the youth who want to engage in Uganda's democracy, but also finds sustainable and peaceful solutions to increase their involvement in decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Another round of applause for Daniel. First of all, for your commitment as an embassy to be part of this process, but also for your continued support in providing a platform for young people to share this conversation. If you're not aware, the Embassy of Sweden has continuously carried out what they're calling democracy talks. And the hashtag today is synonymous with that. We are using the hashtag democracy talks UG. And we should be able to track this conversation. And if you actually check up on the same hashtag, you're able to find the previous conversations we've had with the embassy at various other fora. So I want to thank you, Daniel. But probably on a lighter note, mention that sometimes, Daniel, the bulge in our societies, especially in our communities, I don't know where the Chateka comes from, in the community is observed and perceived as wealth. And so sometimes we are careful not to insult the wealth in the communities. So yes, I agree with you. We'll be careful with the word bulge. But also I have noticed lately, and I'm saying this because there's no one who's obese here in this room, that they have comfort sometimes in their obesity. Because a gentleman recently was asked, don't you want to look like Afande Waswa there, looking lean and smart, and you can tuck in and see your belt, you can see your shoes, and he said, then where would I put my arms when I take my seats? So it's just really on a lighter note. So ladies and gentlemen, I need to mention that I saw a comment on social media with the panelists we had picked, and I also saw myself, and they said, where are the youth in this conversation? Well, the next speaker is a young man, and don't believe what you see. And this conversation is really about young people, and there's a lot of young people in this room who we'll recognize a little later. our youth ambassadors who have traveled across the country to be part of this conversation. So we are quickly turning to a presentation on the situation of youth participation in the processes that promote democracy and sustainable peace. Welcome with me Gerald Bareche, the National Coordinator, Young Peace Ambassadors. You're most welcome, sir.
The representative from the Embassy of Sweden in Uganda, representatives from civil society organizations, representatives from the UN, peace ambassadors present, fellow youth and youth leaders who are around, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerald Bareche, and I'm the National Coordinator Young Peace Ambassador, a youth network created by COACT to increase youth participation in decision making, conflict prevention, and conflict resolution. I'm happy to share with you thoughts on the situation of youth participation in Uganda that promote democracy and sustainable peace in this important dialogue. In this presentation, I will discuss democracy as a means to achieve sustainable peace. The 1995 Constitution of Uganda defines youth as someone who is between 18 years of age to 35 years. About 77% of youth in Uganda are below 25 years, and this makes Uganda to have the highest percentage of young people in the whole world. About 71% of youth live in rural areas, and about 29% live in urban centers. Currently, there is high unemployment rate among the youth. It's about 2.9% compared to the national unemployment rate, which is at 1.92%. About 55% of youth are employed in the agricultural sector, with 60% of them being females, and about 30% being males that participate in agricultural field. Other youths participate in transport sector. Others, those are the people who drive borders, taxis, buses. Others participate in mining, and many other youth participate in different fields. In terms of democratic processes, there are frameworks that have been put or that are put in place to favor participation of youth in Uganda. For example, the Constitution of Republic of Uganda, Article 59, it provides the right to vote. That means once you turn 18 in Uganda, you are allowed to vote and choose your leaders. The right to vote is fundamental because it directly affects the right to the extent that the leaders we vote into power determines whether there will be rule of law or not. So it depends on how we practice our democratic practices when it comes to voting. Every citizen of Uganda of 18 years of age or above has the right to vote. In Uganda, the legal age of adulthood is 18 years. This places a duty on every citizen of 18 years of age and above to register as a voter for public elections when it is time. That means when you turn 18, you have to go and register and become a valid voter. Other avenues for youth participation in democratic processes include participating in as candidates. At 18, you are allowed to go and stand on all the positions. You can act as an agent of some candidate. At 18, you are also allowed to be an election observer, to be an election monitor, and most importantly, getting more organized to demand for good governance and accountability. So that's the role of us as youth, to hold the government accountable for all the programs that may be in implementation. So as youth, we have to come in and make sure there is good governance and accountability of all the programs that are under implementation. In terms of building sustainable peace, young people define peace from different contexts. Someone, peace is about getting a job. That means if I'm employed, I'm peaceful. So if I get a job, I can say I'm peaceful. Being included in programs that affect them, being able to meet basic needs of life, being able to participate in governance issues. It is therefore impossible to talk about peace if there is no inclusion of all people in democratic processes and democracy. That means if youth are excluded in many programs, then there is no how you can say there is democracy, there is peace, there is everything. In ability to participate in building sustainable peace, youth are still facing challenges. However much we are trying to participate in democracy processes and peace building practices, we are still facing many challenges. One is discrimination on the basis of age, and double discrimination of female youth on the basis of age and gender as a result of social norms and beliefs that undermine youth constructive engagements. At least for males, at least for them, they have the highest percentage of participation, but when it comes to females, they have double discrimination. There are some cultures who doesn't allow young girls to participate in electoral processes. Even if we say, I'm going to work from 7 a.m. to midday, they won't allow. So you see, young female ladies are discriminated when it comes to that part. And this limits awareness on the existing opportunities to participate in. Once you don't participate in those things, once you don't expose yourself to different people, you will end up missing many opportunities that would be helpful to youthful life. There is also lack of exposure and role models. Once you remain home, you are stopped to move, where will you find a role model? Where will you get experience? Where will you get platform to express yourself? And normalize the culture of violence. As provided by the Constitution, young people have been positively participating in taking up election positions at all levels of governance, while others have been visibly active in electing their leaders. This means youth have been actively participating in electing their leaders. They have been acting, offering themselves as a candidate of different positions at all levels. Unfortunately, majority of young people, especially those in rural areas, are not participating fully because of lack of awareness. In the 2021 general election, I was in the village in Tungamu district. There was a van from the Electoral Commission. People there are Banyankole, but the adverts were in English. So that communication can't be effective. So that means many people end up missing out chances due to ineffective communication. Some do not have national IDs. Some are not bothered. You tell someone to go and get a national ID, he's like, what will it help me? Even if, whether I have it or not, I will remain the way I am. So people are losing hope. And do not belong to any political party, while others do not bother to vote even. Some have mentality that even if I vote, there will be no change. So civic education is very important at this time, to go back to our homes. We sensitize fellow youth to know the value they can add on this country. Many youth find unleveled ground in the ability to participate in democratic processes. For example, in 2021 general elections, some youth were cheated. There are people, this was witnessed, that people who have money, they dominate. And some youth even fail to have money for nomination forms. So this makes them remain behind the cameras and fail to participate in many activities that may be coming. For wealthier individuals bribe voters, and this makes youth to lose hope, hence limiting their participation. You participate with someone who is rich. I'm 25, someone is 60. He's bringing more money to people. He's giving 20,000. And for you, a youthful person, you don't even have a car. You move on a bicycle, you move on a border, someone is coming in a V80 and is giving money. So that fear makes someone even to drop out from the race. And this was witnessed also in these 2021 general elections, where youth were complaining, they have stolen my victory. And this is because of commercialization of politics that we are seeing now in Uganda, and it is becoming a very big challenge which needs to be addressed. The intergenerational gap between the young and old demoralizes youth participation in democracy and sustainable peace. This is the old people, we call them the grandfathers, think that youth have nothing to put on the round table. They think that youth are violent, youth have no ideas, which makes some of the youth lose hope, which makes them even fail to participate in these democratic and peace-building processes, because they think their participation is not appreciated. And once you feel that you are not appreciated, then your level of participation reduces. Limited knowledge and capacity building among the youth. This leads to youth missing out opportunities that would change their lives. You find that youth, for example, those in villages are not aware of what is taking place. His mind is just eating and sleeping. You tell him, well, let's participate in this program. He said, even if I participate. So they have lost hope in everything. This means we need more of civic education, capacity building, to make sure that we build a strong generation which can participate in democracy, build peace. We have many peace ambassadors across the country. That means all the processes will be going smooth. And some are not exposed, they are not organized, and some don't take interest in knowing what is going on. In other words, some don't mind. Unemployment also limits youth participation in democratic processes. For example, participating in elections, you have to be having money for nomination forms. You need money to run the campaigns. You need money for posters. This makes youth fail to participate in those things, because even if you say I pay, I'm not sure of the correct figure, to stand for the president, even if you ask me 10 million or 5 million, I may not raise it. So that limits youth from participating in those things due to limited of money. Because if I use my 20 million to pick nomination form for the presidency, so where will I get money for transport to cover all this country? So that limits, even if they remove the cap, they say everyone is allowed, but as the youth, we still face it as a challenge. For example, if the nomination forms are free, then there we can offer ourselves to take up those leadership positions. In 2021 general elections, freedom of expression was curtailed. Some youth movements were formed during 2021 general elections. For example, the Twebereremu campaign, which was common in Buganda region, and it resulted in the death of many young people during the course. Many youth were imprisoned, some killed, and others are still missing, making the concerned relatives live in fear. Such acts stops youth participation in democratic processes and peace building. So many movements have been in Uganda, even in the institutions of learning. For example, in Makele, there was a youth movement about fees must fall. So all those movements are organized by youth for them to demand for accountability and good governance. So in 2021 general election, we saw many youth being imprisoned. Many were brutalized. Some are still missing. That means we are still nothing wounds. So in that case, we need more of peace building dialogues to make sure we bring the minds of youth who have lost hope. We try to trace and find out where they are, and bring them to book in case they did any wrong. Some relatives are still crying in villages. They are not seeing their sons and daughters. Up to now, they are crying. So there is no tomorrow how you will tell youth to go and participate in election. He will remain in the bed because he will be sure of when I go back, I may not come back. Despite the above challenges, they again is to celebrate as youth and opportunities for youth to participate in. You might be facing many challenges, but at least we have what to celebrate. The government of Uganda has over the years come up with programs designed at alleviating the youth from poverty. For example, the Youth Livelihood Program, the Youth Venture Fund, and aiming all at job creation. So the government has tried to put in place some programs specifically targeting youth where they can earn their livelihood and improve their income levels. This is good in the sense that when young people are economically empowered, they are able to participate in democratic processes and building peace. When you are empowered, when you have money, when you have knowledge, when you have everything, that means you are ready to participate in each and every process that comes in your face. There is provision of free education to young people through UPE and USE. That's the field also to celebrate as youth. Because in last years, you would find someone stops in P2, in P3. But now at least you can join UPE, you can join USE and attain some education. There are also government sponsorships at high institutions of learning for bright students and students' loan scheme for financially challenged students. There are programs put in place, for example, the loan scheme, where you apply and the government gives you funds, and after studying, you pay back. So that's the field where, as youth, we also feel to celebrate because it is helping us. All these opportunities support young people to get right qualifications to contest as candidates, but also we should have many dialogues about the intergeneration discussion to create a platform for learning. Because when you exclude me, it means you are stopping me from learning even. When you don't want me to sit on your table, that means you are excluding me and my participation won't be seen. So we need more of such dialogues to help youth understand democracy and peace building. There is need for sustainable funding and support youth-led democracy and peace initiative, especially those at grassroots. We find, for example, most of the government fund, they don't plan for such processes that we put aside some money that will help in peace building, training people about democracy. So we find it a challenge. At least when there is fund put aside that specifically favors youth to participate in some field, it would be a benefit for us. There is need to involve young people in designing programs and projects that affect them. Instead of sitting there and plan for me, at least involve youth to participate in the initial planning of the projects. It is very easy when I participate in a project, we draft, rather than sitting here, draft and brings to me, I want you to implement this, when actually I don't know what even it means. So we need to include youth in all the projects that are targeting them. There is need to include civic education, as I mentioned, so that youth can get knowledge and participate in those things. At this point, I would like to appeal to COACT and Forward to create a platform where the young people trained by COACT and those trained by Forward can meet and share ideas on democracy and sustainable peace for better development of this country. In other words, we need a platform where the youth trained by different organizations can meet and discuss some ideas for better development. I conclude by saying youth have much to offer in societies, from innovation to creativity of new things. Our participation in democracy promotes active citizenship, strengthens social responsibility, and enhances democratic processes and institutions. Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of UN, said, young people should be at the forefront of global change and innovation. If they are empowered, they can be key to agents for development and peace. And if they are left on society's margins, all of us will be impoverished. Therefore, let's ensure that young people have every opportunity to participate fully in the lives of their societies for better development. Remember, Martin Luther King said, people who love their country can change it. I thank you.
Another round of applause for Gerald. Thank you very much, Gerald. And those who had been asking us if there are any young people represented in this room, I think we've had the voice of the young people. I noticed at Gerard's age I had no gray hair. Gerard clearly has no gray hair. He's still a very young man. You're so close to Chateka, be very careful. Some of this stuff rubs off, so we are not so sure. But you have put us in a place where we are now able to begin a conversation on youth participation in the democratic processes and being able to sustain this presence in this space, but also talk about sustainable peace and how young people, young men and women can be part of this conversation. And so we are going to begin our panel discussion. So I will invite Afande Waswap David and Gerald to take the front seats. Please do feel free to take those very special seats. I try to socially distance you, so one of you will be at the tail end, the other will be closer to where I was seated, and I may stay on this side, but please do take your seats and I'll come to you. But we wanted to begin this conversation with Patricia. So I want to request Ms. Patricia Mnabi to turn on her video, and I think she's trying to turn on her video. So as Patricia turns on her video, I need to mention that this will really be an open conversation in this room, and I'll come back to as many of you here. I have some specific questions for some of you, our invited guests and youth ambassadors, but I also have very specific questions for both Afande Waswa and Robert Kempala, my brother, human rights defender. So please come, take the other seat at the front. And Patricia, as I mentioned, is joining us via Zoom. And Patricia, by the way, I'll be asking the question, Patricia, shortly, don't you worry. And Patricia, by the way, is among the many who are joining us via Zoom on this conversation. But I want to recognize a very special person. And I know she introduced herself earlier to us here in the room, but many may not know that she's here with us. I don't know how you mention people who you've grown up respecting and believing in. You don't know whether to say Right Honorable. She's not the Speaker, she's not the Prime Minister. You don't know whether to say Her Excellency, so I'm careful. Madame Margaret Sekaja. Madame Margaret Sekaja is the former UN rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders, like Mr. Sempala here, and also former chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. We want to thank you so much for joining us. This is a very special conversation for you. And let me know whenever you want to say something, I'll come to you. So I want to begin with you, Patricia. So Patricia, I'm specifically looking at you as part of the non-state actors, as a civil society organization with Forward. And what have you done that could enhance democracy and governance here in Uganda? And I'm a bit specific to the issues of youth and women. So over to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Maurice. And let me begin by thanking COACT for organizing this important dialogue, especially soon after we have been through an election. So in terms of what civil society organizations have done, I must say, even from the previous presenters' perspective, a lot has been done by civil society to ensure the meaningful participation of youth in Uganda. So one of the things that has been happening, of course, is capacity building. At the Forum for Women in Democracy, for example, since 2004, we have been implementing a program to mentor young leaders, both men and women, in what we call alternative and transformative leadership, and to get them engaged in democratic and governance processes and leadership broadly. So to date, we have held 30 camps. We have about 1,000 young women and men who are participating in these processes in the rural areas, at national level, in institutions of learning, in their communities, in various ways. So a lot of capacity building has been done. We also know that COACT has, through their Youth Action for Peace program, been working on the meaningful participation of both women and youth in governance and peace-building processes, all aimed at building the next generation of female and male peace builders. All of us know about the Uganda Youth Network and the good work that they have done over the past so many years. The Uganda Youth Network is comprised of 157 youth organizations, which are all placing people at the center of leadership, of policy, and governance. And of course, there are other organizations like FarmFort, like Akina Mama wa Africa, like the Women's International Peace Center, who have programs in place all aimed at ensuring youth are fully engaged in governance processes, youth and also women, but also advancing leadership among both the women and the youth. And there's a plethora of organizations in the districts that are working towards getting more women and youth involved and engaged in governance and democratic processes. There has also been intentionality by a number of organizations to ensure that the youth are involved in democratic processes. All of us must know or may know that the Uganda Youth Network was at the forefront of bringing together the Youth Coalition for Democracy to develop youth manifestos over about 2 electoral periods. These youth manifestos brought to the fore core issues that need to be paid attention to for the youth. Things like jobs, health care for all, education, youth participation in decision making, and also sports and creative arts. So there has been intention by a number of organizations to make sure that the youth are not left behind. In the last election, the Westminster Foundation for Democracy launched the platform for youth inclusion and political participation, and this was aimed at inspiring joint efforts and collaboration by young democratic actors and their organizations in order for them, the youth, to have a coherent voice in the last elections. And this body brought together youth MPs, the National Youth Council, the Youth Coalition for Electoral Democracy, and political party youth wings. We also know, of course, that COACT was heavily involved in the last election. Robina, in her opening remarks, told us about the phenomenal work that COACT did in putting together the first youth observatory body in the world, not only in Uganda, and also under the NGO forum and in a partnership with ourselves, we are running a project called the Strengthening Citizens Engagement in Elections Project, funded by USAID, that is aimed at working with not only youth-led CSOs, but also other partners in the regions to promote peaceful engagement in electoral processes by supporting youth and also women as candidates, as voters, as election observers, and also monitors. We also know about the work of the Women's Situation Room, which intentionally brings together both women and young people to be a part of advocating for peaceful elections, to be part of ensuring that, word is out there among the citizens about the need for a peaceful election, work that happens before, during, and after elections. And I heard Farida Lule from the Women's Situation Room is in the room. They have done phenomenal work in ensuring that the youth and women are part of peace advocates, but that they also engage in brokering peace within their communities. A lot of work has also been done in the area of policy advocacy. The Uganda Youth Network, the Action for Youth Development Uganda, the Youth Equality Center, the Ngabo Youth Center, the Youth Advocacy and Development Network, the Youth Coalition for SDGs. I could go on and on. There are so many organizations that are doing policy advocacy for the youth regarding their equal and meaningful participation in democracy, in sexual and reproductive health and rights, in peace building, and on the SDGs. And let me also add here that many times we are working in silos, but ideally all the work that we do, be it in SRHR, be it in peace building, all the work that we do is interconnected and leads us into governance and democracy discussions. So we should not think that because we are doing work providing particular services, the democracy conversation is not a part of us. Then a lot of civic education has been done. Majority of the CSOs have now taken on to doing sustained civic education. I think about 15 years ago, a lot of us were more focused on doing voter education towards an election, but the context in which we were working both on women's issues, on youth issues, led us to the realization that it is important to do continuous civic education. Of course, we could do more. Many times we are limited by resources, but a lot has gone into doing civic education, and this is done through community engagement, through the media, and engaging with the young people to raise their voice and also their agency. And lastly, a lot of research has been ongoing. Many organizations know that it is important to have evidence to be able to conduct meaningful advocacy and to convince the various stakeholders about the need to plug the gaps that there are. So there's a lot of research that is going on across all the organizations. We know that assessments have been done around the Youth Livelihood Program and how it can be made more meaningful for the young people that it is intended to empower. We know research has been done on political parties and youth political participation in Uganda.
We were able to catch you before you concluded. And please don't go anywhere, Patricia. I'll probably come back to you. There could be particular questions to you from the audience and also online. If you're watching, we are using the hashtag DemocracyTalksUG. We will be able to pick some of your comments and questions on the social media platforms, on the NTV Twitter handle and also the Facebook platforms that are streaming this conversation. I want to welcome both Afande Waswa David and my brother Robert Sempala, the Human Rights Network for Journalists. But before I come to Afande, I thought we would conclude this conversation with Robert because we've listened to what Madam Robina had to say and listened to Gerald. Now I want to listen to Patricia under the civil society organizations. And now to Robert, who I want to ask a specific question on the visibility of youth participation in the process to promote democracy and sustainable peace. You're aware, Robert, as a fourth estate, we provide a platform that gets quite good visibility for the young people. Unfortunately, unless it's violence, unless it's the terrible stories that get the headlines, we then don't capture some of the activities under which young people, young men and women participate in the democracy process because it's not really attractive news. You and I know that we thrive off bad news, and unfortunately that's who we are as media. The headlines are covered with a lot of very unfortunate incidents and stories. And unless young people are involved in these stories, then they don't get the visibility that they deserve, especially if it's a democratic process or even other processes in which young men and women are involved. Robert, why is this happening?
Thank you. The representative of the Embassy of Sweden, the leadership of COACT, ladies and gentlemen here present, I bring you greetings from the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. And talking of media, my colleague Gerard Ebri mentioned press freedom and freedom of expression in his presentation, and it's extremely key in determining how media can go about its regular work. You know, media is really faced with lots of challenges, Maurice, just like you and I know, and as such, many things go unattended to because it's struggling to survive in this very competitive and capitalistic economy that we are in. But that notwithstanding, I must commend, for me, the media, because all that we are able to see is being the donkey work of the men and women in the respective media houses to profile the young people as essentially important in our society, especially in our bid to democratize as a country. I must say a lot has been done. However, we can do more to best project the young people as a great asset of this country in the bid to provide leadership. One, by prioritizing programs that encompass the youth engagements by the media, and this should be deliberate, even when it is not time that is paid for by the young people. There should be free space that can be accorded to the young people to freely come and discuss, express, and also offer themselves to the wider communities that we live in Uganda. We need to increase airplay in terms of news, in terms of programming, and youth programs should be very integral in our news and in our programs. And this should also be well documented, very categorically clear that we have a youth program. It's called ABCD, runs from this time to this time, and should give opportunity to all young people, irrespective of their, where they come from, irrespective of their levels of education, irrespective of the position they hold in society. But in order to encourage all of them, we should look at them positively as having a contribution to make. And as such, the media should be very deliberate in identifying the influencers within the youthful communities to bring them to the fore and project them at a national level in order for their voices to be heard widely. Also, coverage should be positive. Morris made mention of sometimes our news being littered with lots of negativities. You know, I think it should be deliberate for the media houses to project the young people in a very positive way, to give hope to the older citizens of this country that the young people have a lot to offer. They are good and deliberate on what they are doing, and as such they are an asset to us as a country. But also, we should in the media employ young people who can be influencers, who the other young people can look up to, who they can trust, who they feel will voice their concerns in a very frank and candid situation. But also, the media, I think, should have trainings for the young people to empower them, to strategically position them in how to utilize the media. Because the media is extremely competitive. It's not a given that the young people will be there unless they know how to strategically position. And that can only be done by the media experts to gather young people across and talk to them about what it takes to be relevant within the media, to sustain media campaigns, how to communicate through the media. All those empowerment initiatives should be well entrenched within our media spectrum. And as professionals, also mentor young people to come and occupy the spaces in these media houses. You know, media houses don't pay so exorbitantly. So it's sometimes not a very good attraction for the young people to come and work. But if they are schooled in the role and critical importance of the media, that will attract them to come and work within the media, despite the other challenges. And of course, the media should also conduct thematic research in order to do a factual-based advocacy for the young people. There should be evidence, empirical evidence. The young people are the majority. They can do so many good things, profile them so well, and endear many of us to come and work with the young people. Before coming here, when there was an advert running on NTV, and I looked much older than I am in that advert. And somebody called me, a young person, to say, what are you going to tell us? You're not a young person. And I said, I am youthful in my approaches, and I like young people. I have a soccer academy for young kids, and so I interact a lot with young people. And I said, yes, I'm a senior youth. I'm on level 4. Level 4 is close to young people. So I think we should work so hard to bridge this gap between the young people and the senior citizens like Madam Margaret Sekaja in our midst. And I was very happy when I saw her in our midst to inspire, to talk to us about how they have progressively made it, and to start at this point. And not buy into a notion of leaders for tomorrow. The young people should be leaders for today, if not yesterday. And they should be handed that opportunity to give leadership. Because they are competent, for me. They have the energies, and they are the majority. Why not entrust them with the key leadership positions as young people and wait for them to, get into a phase of waning energies and then say, okay, you can take over leadership. They should start now, if not yesterday. We should also, as the media, identify excellent performers within the young population and reward them. So we should have a rewarding system to encourage others to participate, to come forward, to explore their fullest potentials. Media has the ability to scan environments through their cameras, through their microphones, to know who can offer what, and accordingly reward excellence within the young people, irrespective of where they are situated, where they come from, which schools they have gone to, the amount of English they speak. Young people should not be weighed down on the ability to speak English, but the ability to deliver practical and tangible services to the communities. Finally, there is a lot of unemployment within the youthful communities. So media should have programs that encourage young people to be self-innovating, to come up with income-generating activities. There should be programs that are geared towards such, as opposed to just us saying, the high levels of unemployment, the young people are not catered for, so where is the solution journalism? So media should be deliberate on solution journalism for the young people. Thank you so much, Maurice. But also, before I end,
yes.
It's a free world, yeah? So the young people should fight for their space as well, yeah? Because we don't get what we deserve, but what we bargained for. The young people should push for that space and occupy it if nobody is coming to, create it for them. So those that are very organized will fit into those very limited spaces. Not just thinking I'm a young person and so somebody will see me on the street walking and they will presuppose I'm looking for a job and then invite me for a job. No, doesn't work that way. But what it is that we can do will determine how far we can go to influence even within the media fraternity. Thank you so much.
Robert, I want to thank you because you've literally summarized an area of my expertise, and you and I are aware that not a lot of media platforms provide space for young people. Most of the space we create for young people on our platforms is related to entertainment or social activities on our platforms, which unfortunately has been perceived as a space for young people. And so I like when he says you must take the space and own that space. And I want you to be very deliberate about the spaces on the different media platforms, including social media. And you can start there, because what we have done as media organizations is we are at the point of trying to pick people and identify people on social media who are intelligent, who are smart, who are brave enough to say certain things, but are also using data to take on the leadership or to take on different groups of people with fact, not your own perception about a given issue. So I want to support what Robert has said. You must own this space, and we will only provide that space if you're available. Nobody is going to come looking for you. You must avail yourself, and you must come and demand for that space. And so I want to applaud you, Robert. Maybe to give you some facts, the majority of our media organizations, because of what he said, we don't like to pay very well, and unfortunately it's a capitalist society. We have a lot of young people in this space. It's both good and bad. So good because we provided a platform for young people, bad because then we lose out on what would be historical memory. But it's a good thing because then we are providing a platform for young people, and you'd be then expecting that young people provide a platform for more young people to be able to speak out on issues to do with the youth and women. So I really want to thank you for that. We will continue this conversation. I want to go to Afande Waswa because yours is very specific on the issues of respect for political rights and freedoms, and various reports, whether it's Electoral, the Electoral Observer reports, whether it's civil society reports, continuously highlight the lack of observance of human rights and freedoms of people in your work. We would like to hear from you what the police is doing to ensure that these rights are observed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice, and members here. I greet you, our viewers and listeners, the ED, COACT, the representative of the Ambassador of Sweden, Assistant Commissioner for Youth and Children, Senior Citizen and Human Rights Defender, Madam Sekaja. Ma'am, I recognize you. Fellow participants, I bring you greetings from the IGP and the entire force, and I thank you for giving us an opportunity to come and interact and share with the youth as regards to their participation. Let me start by mentioning that the program on government and security of the National Development Plan number 3, which runs the year 2020-21 to year 24-25, under which UPF falls, aims at improving adherence to the rule of law and capacity to contain prevailing and emerging security threats. And one of its key result areas is improvement of democratic indices. The plan recognizes that over the last decade, the NDP through NDP 1 and 2, the number one key achievement registered was the sustainable peace, security, and macroeconomic stability, which provided the best anchor for economic growth. We know that our economy grew from 64 trillion shillings to 128 in that period. However, the plan also recognizes that there are a number of outstanding challenges, among which is the insufficient creation of quality and gainful jobs in the economy, specifically for the youth, which is with an estimated unemployment rate as at 13.3, as the ambassador said, of a population which is 78% under the age of 30. So there are three key things here: security, development, and the younger population. That is a strategic note. My topic for discussion, like Maurice put it, participation is a right. What could Uganda Police Force do to ensure respect for political rights and freedoms? Uganda Police Force is established by Article 211 of the Constitution. Section 1 says there will be a police force known as the Uganda Police Force, blah, blah, blah. Section 2, of course, gives functions to the Parliament to define and prescribes the functions of the force, and I'll talk about Section 3 later. So our mandate, as provided by the Constitution and the Police Act, CAP 303, is protection of life and property, prevention and detection of crime, keeping law and order, and maintenance of overall security and public safety in Uganda. We have a vision and a mission. The vision is an enlightened, motivated, community-oriented, accountable, and modern police force geared towards crime-free society. And the mission, to secure life and property in a committed and professional manner in partnership with the public in order to promote development. The Constitution of Uganda, under Chapter 4, Article 38, on civic rights and activities, gives the citizens of Uganda the right of participation. Section 1 of Article 38 says that every Ugandan citizen has the right to participate in the affairs of government individually or through his or her representatives in accordance with the law. I underline that one. And Section 2 says every Ugandan has the right to participate in peaceful activities, underlined, to influence the policies of government through civic organizations. Indeed, there has been concern and dissatisfaction, especially among the public, on police conduct and specifically on matters pertaining to political rights and freedoms, but also as well on general policing activities. And I believe that's why the organizers of this dialogue chose this discussion topic. We have had cases of our officers failing to follow procedure or abusing procedure or even acting outside the law, portraying lack of professionalism in several cases. And on the other hand, we've also had the public, especially the youth, deliberately choosing to defy procedure or to defy the law, ending up conflicting with the police, with some situations escalating to undesirable scenarios, leading to some of our officers making careless mistakes that have been highly condemned. Section 3 of Article 211 of the Constitution says that the Uganda Police Force shall be nationalistic, patriotic, professional, disciplined, competent, and productive, and its members shall be citizens of Uganda of good character. So that answers my discussion topic. What should Uganda Police do to ensure respect for? It is rather simple. The Uganda Police Force needs to build itself into a nationalistic, patriotic, professional, disciplined, competent, and productive force, and all its officers be of good character. And then we should work our vision and our mission, as we've seen them above there. But it's clear that probably we are not there yet, and as a force. So we are here to dialogue on how do we get there, okay? So I'll give you briefly 6 action areas, and then we'll go into the discussion before I get back to Maurice. We need, as a police, to build the competency through continuous training of our officers in order for them to cope with their mandate and act in accordance to the law. We are cognizant of the fact that we are policing a new era, the communication or information age. And therefore, we must cope with the times, and this can only be done through continuous training. Police management has made an assessment of this area and drawn up strategies pertaining to building professionalism, starting with competence. Training has been given the highest priority, and the program is already on, with its set goals spread over time. This deliberate and intensive effort takes care of all areas of training, the general training and specialized training, including investigations, intelligence, gender matters, cyber and electronic crime, terrorism and other transaction organized crimes, including the special investigation techniques aided by technology. It also includes command and leadership. For example, very soon we are having all the DPCs in Uganda going to one of the specialized training schools in Olilim for this specific aspect. After our lessons and how we've handled elections and all that, we feel, that's the training aspect. But also we have a group going to the National Leadership Institute. We have a group of both senior and intermediate officers in a senior command and staff college in Webaja. We have partnership with UMI, and we have leaders, undergoing training there. Even in the UK, recently at the graduation, we have 4 of our staff graduating in PhDs, one of them being in curriculum development, but also another in transnational organized crime. So we are on that track. and including trainings abroad. So that's a strategic action area in answering that aspect. 2, enhancement of efforts to promote human rights, spearheaded, of course, by the Directorate of Human Rights and Legal Services of the police. In our course of duty, that is preventing and fighting crime, we are always in constant interaction, and in many cases, confrontation with the members of the public. And this raises the potential for situations of human rights violations. Nonetheless, no matter how challenging our role might get, we have a constitutional obligation as a police to respect and promote human rights. So what are we doing about it? At all training levels, there is an inclusion of human rights module, both at initial training officers and those joining, but also the trainings of the in-service. And the force has got a human rights training manual, which was developed jointly with the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and the same was condensed into a pocket handbook as a kit for officers as they do their day-to-day. This book is very clear and precise on what is expected of a police officer in the protection and promotion of human rights. So we just need to enhance these efforts. Action area 3 is being more accountable. We shall continue to enhance our accountability, first by strengthening our internal oversight systems into the institutional framework, including command and control, but as well as institutional structures like the Department of Inspectorates, which does the internal monitoring and evaluation of policing functions, professional standards unit, disciplinary action procedures like the police disciplinary court. You heard about what transpired in Massacre during the campaigns, where one of the border set himself on fire at a police station. You know how that was handled. So these are existing, and there's also a police court of appeal. So these are existing, but we need to enhance them. All these, they are available. We just need to strengthen them. But other oversight levels include the police authority, chaired by the Minister of Internal Affairs, and the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs. But going forward, probably, we need to think about an independent oversight mechanism instituted by the Act of Parliament, similar to that of Kenya, called the Independent Police Oversight Authority, which was established in 2011 after the chaos of 2007-8 post-election violence. There was reform of several sectors, including the security sector. So they came up with an independent police oversight authority, which provides civilian oversight over the police work. Among other functions, monitoring and investigating of police operations and deployments, investigating of police misconduct, and review of the functioning of internal disciplinary processes. But this is the work of Parliament, it's not ours. But no, going forward, we need to think properly about that. And another one is the drive or a program to build public trust and branding of the police through community policing, probably. This is a very key factor. We are policing the public. We are there for them, so we need to engage. That one speaks for itself. Then promote intelligence-led policing, enhance it. All our operations and activities should be enhanced by the intelligence so that we work smarter. That is strategic idea, and it's already on. And the last but not least, we have to enhance policing with technology. We are already on track with this. You know, the CCTV project, which is majorly managed by the police force. We have an ICT Research and Innovation Center in Chikandwa, basically for innovation and coming out with ideas of how police can take advantage of the technologies. The forensic services, we have one of the most modern forensic laboratories in the region today. It helps us in investigations, the scientific investigations, which is the passion of the president. Crime record management systems has been enhanced and shall continue to strengthen it. Electronic surveillance, of course, guided by the law. We have the Regulation of Information Communication Act, which clearly specifies how we can do that, and others. Again, riding on technology, we shall work with other MDAs and stakeholders such as the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, Ministry of ICT, Ministry of Education and Sports, Ministry of Local Government and Social Development, and the media, of course, but also CSOs, Uganda Human Rights Commission, etc., to enhance public awareness on civil rights in accordance to what? With the law, so that we participate. It is a participative. You know, as the government faces from sector-based planning to program-based. We need to harmonize our programs and activities moving forward. But also, riding on technology to improve awareness, like Maurice has said, on crime prevention, using social platforms, social media, you know, which our youth population have fully embraced. This will give us mileage to reach out to the youth, like the speaker said here, Mr. Gerard. You know, we need to reach out to them. So we need to embrace the technology. It is an advantage, and our youth are highly involved in that. I think.
First, I want to applaud the fact that we have a member of the security forces present here in this conversation. That for me is the beginning of this conversation. But he's actually not alone, and his colleagues who are here in this room. I'll come to some of you because I have some specific questions for you. But I noticed and I know for a fact that Robert, in the different engagements Robert has had and platforms Robert has had to speak on abuse of human rights by different security agencies, you've been very critical of the security forces. But Afande Waswa has actually set out what would be an open conversation that the police force is willing to have with members of the public, and also shared a way forward, which for me is very good. But I know you were itching because I want to start with you because I know your views on some of these issues. And as a human rights defender, I thought I'd begin with you and then go to our senior citizen. And I'm happy Waso mentioned the senior citizen. Now he gives me a better way of calling Margaret Sekaja. Yes, Robert. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you, Waswa Omolongo, for the able presentation. This paints a very good picture for me. And I'm only wondering what is holding us back from having a very progressive police force, given the presentation shared by Waswa. Because he has ably alluded to every situation that we need to address, having an independent oversight body like we have in Kenya, having more trainings for the colleagues, especially the DPCs, then respecting human rights. I only do not want to buy into the idea of any amount of excuse for violating the rights, because the police is regularly in contact with the communities to enforce public order. If indeed the professionalism is enhanced and there is deliberate disciplinary actions taken against the errants in the police, I'm sure that would be a deterrent, as opposed to, you know, covering up for so many, because you would really see a return of disciplinary actions happening on a regular, but we don't seem to see. Maybe at some point the police has to open it up to the public to come and see how they're taking action against the errant officers. Also coming up with apologies why you think you have erred. Because the army, you know, took lead recently when they beat up journalists at the UN offices in Kololo. Said, we are sorry guys, if you're not satisfied, we can demonstrate it with a soccer game, we can have dinner, wine and dine. Though later they beat up some other journalists. So for us who sustained injuries are still now wondering why we had to participate into the game. But I think the police has now a script to read from. The army is taking lead. I'm told that time we're supposed to also meet with the police to make it like a security event with the media. But then other forces within the army were like, no, but the police is sometimes too much. Maybe they are going to dent us. Let us go as the army. If they want, they also come up on their own and do an initiative of this nature. So, Afande Waswa, mine is to thank you. I do not believe a lot in negative energies to discourage people where they think they're deliberate on doing good things. So I envision a good police, to say the least. I do not want to entertain any amount of excuses for trampling on people's rights and more so violating human rights. Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you very much, Robert. Afande, also, in case there are other questions, we'll come to you at the end. I also want, I'm excited that my brother Mondo has the last word later, because he's capturing all this as part of his conversation at the end. I want to come to our senior citizen here. I will sanitize your hands and protect you from my COVID. But as a human rights defender and as an elder in this society, you want to point us to some of the areas, as Robin has said, we're not here to lament, we're here to discuss a way forward and provide solutions to how we can have more youth participate in different democratic platforms, but also have open conversations with some of our friends. Yes.
Bump Love is brought to you by
Introducing Quantum Trade, putting you ahead today.
Pampers Pants absorb wetness rapidly and lock it away better for up to 12 hours of dryness. So when they start to crawl, you know it's time for Pampers Pants. Now available in low counts at only 7,000 shillings per pack.
That significantly changed. And I think we need to ask ourselves what prompted the change to seeing many more young people getting involved in elections, either as people participate running for political offices or actually contributing to electoral processes by way of campaigning, by way of going out to vote. I think the youth participation was massively different from the previous elections this time around. But I think we could have also still done better. And I want to go to the practical things that could have been done and as a way of forming a conversation for the way forward going forward. First and foremost, I think we could have done better by extending the deadline for voter registration to include more young people onto the voters register. Secondly, I think it was also important to give confidence to the young people that indeed their vote matters, to rally young people to understand that indeed when they go out and cast their vote will be counted. I think before the 2021 elections, I was involved in a by-election in Ginger East. And I think 2 days before that by-election, we went to observe the rallies of the candidates who were running in that by-election, the last rallies. One rally had about 5,000 people, another rally had about 10,000 or more people. When it came to voting, the actual voting, the entire count of the people that voted was less than 6,000. So the question that this begs is, why do we see then more people participating in the campaigns and the lead-up activities with vigor, with passion, and then ultimately you don't see the same numbers turning out? I also think that our model of voter education, or call it voter mobilization, has to be changed. I think what can be more effective than a fellow youth convincing fellow young persons to participate in elections, other than seeing, very old people coming to convince young people to tell them go and vote or participate in these democratic processes. I think we need to change our model. What can be more effective than actually riding the social media wave? If it is what it will get young people to get involved in these things. What is more effective than getting young people to actually to use music, entertainment, sports as the platform to get them involved in democratic processes? I think we have to think of creative and innovative ways to ensure that more young people are involved in these processes. And I think the electoral environment has to be safe. It has to be safe and secure to give confidence to the young people that when they participate in anything called election, in anything called political, they will not get a beating. They will be safe. They will go back home safe and healthy. I think that needs to be emphasized. The emphasis is that democratic processes, political processes, need to be civil than what we have previously seen in some cases. I think lastly, we need to also understand that democracy means more than holding elections. I think it relates more on the way we live, our livelihood. I think somebody talked about it. For some people, democracy means employment. For some people, it means, I have some money in my pocket. For other people, it might actually mean that I am free. I can do anything that I want, but with responsibility. Other people, it means safety and security. So we have to read democracy contextually, but also in a more comprehensive way, so that we understand that it's not just about casting your vote, like it has been narrowly interpreted. I think lastly, we also need to check, are our people comfortable with one another? Are our people comfortable with living with one another? I think we have seen issues of pains in coexistence. We saw the intolerance, we saw the hate speech in the lead up to the elections last year. We see the hate, we see the anger in this country. What is causing that, and what can be done? Because you cannot claim to participate in democratic processes, in political processes, if the environment in which you're participating is foul, is acidic. You don't want to be in such an environment. So, lastly, for me, my point that I would want to emphasize is that the citizens of Uganda need to actually get out of bed. They've woken up, like we saw in the last elections, but they need to actually now get out of bed and understand that they have to assert themselves. Somebody made this point earlier, that citizens, the young people, must assert themselves. But as they assert themselves, they need to do it with responsibility and a sense of duty and a sense of love for their own communities. Thank you.
Well said. I just need to mention, I'll open it up. Don't you worry, we have time. We've managed to manage our time, and I have so much time, I'm going to get everyone's contribution. But allow me to sort this sound issue, and I know the technical team is working on this sound. Tito, also check here, because the mics are all off, so check this booth. So as we do that, we've been seated for far too long. Please stand, all of you. You need to allow the blood flow to the legs. I think we had a small power issue that tripped the sound. So mine is to please stretch, and since we are socially distanced, stretch your hands. Let us stretch them, and then try and bend towards your feet. So the other way, like that. Gerald, not in front, on the side, yeah? There. Try and go as far so you can feel your... I'm trying to make sure you are as fit as possible. And you can do these exercises at home. If you're watching on TV, I don't think you can hear me, and you're wondering what they're doing. Okay. All right, so feel free to sit down. Please sit. We're just making sure that the sound is right. But I needed to mention that we have various representatives of either the police from upcountry, we have youth activists from upcountry, and I wanted Albert to share with us those specific people that are here, because I'm not so certain everyone on my list is here. Albert, is there everyone? I am happy to begin with Francis Ongwen. Afande Francis, you're here? Please, now that I know you are here, Uganda Police Force, and also ASP Muzima from Amuria District, the DPC. So those are all supporting Waswa here. He's not alone, he's guarded. He's well protected, and I have several youth activists who are here. I'll come to you. I'm just ensuring that the sound is back. I also need to mention, if you're here and you're on social media, the platforms are already sharing using the hashtag DemocracyTalksUG. Feel free to go onto your platform and share and retweet. There is still some coffee, so you can always walk quietly to the coffee serving area. We also have this conversation being streamed both on the social media platforms of NTV, the YouTube platform. And so when this is done,
police and the youth should do to improve on the relationship that you have said is not good. But also want to believe that it's not good for a few people. There are those who have very, very good relationships who are young with the police. So number one, the police should do a lot of school or community policing programs where the youth are and they do what to do, right? What are the dark spots, how they were inside the crime and how to avoid it. Then police should also train the youth, right? Detection, prevention. Police survive on intelligence, and this can come from the youth, but should be the police training youth first. Number three, the police can also organize activities with the youth. Models. Most of them were the youth, and a lot of work was done. Although maybe they were supposed to be trained properly well, do good work. So police can still work with youth as crime preventers. Then also forming partnerships and coalitions with youth leaders and youth, and I see this a lot. We are working with border borders. I myself is leading a border border campaign within Kampala, in Karamoja, and other places. And most of those border border members are youth. Child and Family Office are having clubs in school, like Crime Preventers Club, Child Protection Clubs. These are the things that will draw us closer to the youth. And second last, I think also the media has left a lot of the positive things that the police is doing. They only pick the very little negative things. Yes. One time I went to Kenya, was in the training. Then the Kenyan Defense Forces told me, for us to fear Uganda police more than UPDF. This is because of what they see. So they have not picked the negative things about the police and portrayed it there. So that the one will see the police as a demon. And yet police also does a lot of things. Out of 10, 9 things are good, but the media is not highlighting it. It's only highlighting the one out of 10, which is bad. So that's my request.
All right.
Then, I think also,
very quickly.
Last one. Now in the police, we have the Women's Affairs Department. Why don't we also have the Youth Affairs Department? Do you think that kind of because only the youth now is remaining. We also have a youth wing kind of arrangement where a lot of issues about youth can be discussed, can be researched. So these are my really humble submissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Avande Francis, this is the open space the Democracy Talks provides. We have this kind of engagement. Avande Waso, I think we need to consistently have these conversations because we generate a lot of great ideas. And I saw Robina taking note of the youth desk, not just a desk, but even a department in the police force. And when you said wing, I got a bit, scared. Wings are very difficult to manage. And Mondo was not so comfortable with the word wing. So, you know the political wings I'm talking about. I want to apologize. The sound, we will have to shout so you can hear us, but I know that some of you speakers, I'm going to have to bring you here to speak from here so that the TV audience can be able to hear you. And if you're watching at home and you're wondering what had happened, we just had a small power surge issue here. And we will manage it by having almost everyone here. So I'll have a sanitizer here for all of us. So quickly, to conclude the police conversation, I wanted to invite Muzima to come. Please come. I want you to use this microphone, but also be audible for the people in the room. I think they wrote Muzima, right? No, there's the policeman. Don't worry. There is also on effective collaboration. And both Waswa and Francis have literally set the stage for you. I'll give you a minute and a half.
Thank you very much. Protocol observed. My name once again is Superintendent of Police Moses Muzima from Amuria as a DPC. This afternoon, I also want to add my voice on what has already been aired out, on how we can ensure the youth, police, and the general public continue working together, collaborating together. We need to know that today we have found a lot of youth incarcerated. Others are out there very idle, not because they don't have what to do, but I think there's something pertaining their mindset. And so today I want to ask the youth as a police officer to actively or to take participation in crime prevention, because we cannot do this work alone. We need everyone's involvement, and in particular the youth, having seen that they are actually not doing much to help us prevent a lot of crime, and yet they are, most of them are the victims. So doing this, we shall realize law and order and development in our communities. And we need to ask them to respect the law. Not only the law, but also the law enforcement officers. Most of the times police officers have become victims of circumstance because the youths are not really observing the laws and their responsibilities as they ought to do. Embracing cohesion for collective ideas and voice in advocacy. Really, I have come to realize that there is a lot of youth who are working in isolation, and having seen that a lot of forums or organizations have been put in place, most of the youth need to join them because they are preparing our voice to those duty bearers who are supposed to help us in solving our challenges. As well, engage in government or community programs for information, exposure, and relevance. If we don't always involve ourselves in most of these organizations' meetings where they're taking place, we don't get access information. And the moment we don't access information, meaning that we remain backward and we can't know what to be done. We need exposure at that moment so that we get to know what is the government having for us, how do we prepare ourselves also to benefit and remain relevant in the government and our communities. Third last, consultation and engagement of the youth in peaceful activism other than involvement in violent acts. And all of us, it is our role, as we are in this house today, it is our role to ensure that we mobilize the youth to take up peaceful means in conflict resolution, also participate themselves in ensuring that peace is available in our communities where we do come from. Second last, embracing the opportunities and exhibiting maximum zeal for work and ensuring that we surely exhibit a lot of discipline. We need discipline. Discipline is, and once we have discipline, then there is no limit. We have to surely show a lot of zeal for work, and therefore we don't see all these idlers in places of work. And most of the youth who are engaging in doing gambling, it's like as if they have lost hope, but there is still hope for everyone. We need to live diligent lives. Many of us, we know we have a lot embedded in us, but we have not gone ahead to discover what we are, what is in us, what are we good at. We really need to have more of such forums to sensitize us, to equip us with skills and knowledge. And my brother there, he has ably put it that a lot of us are languishing because we have failed to know what to do, yet we are very much really gifted in a lot of work. So the moment we get to know that work is out there, you only need to choose what you're good at and get involved in it. Really, there will be no cause of alarm. We shall observe a lot of peace and security among our communities, in particular, girls, women, and generally the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Afande. And you can see we had good representation from the police force. And now, speak. So there is a microphone that is mobile. I'll come to you, don't worry. There are specific people I wanted to hear from. I don't know where Becky Ajuna is. Where is Becky? Becky is here. Becky, you have 1 minute. I want to make sure all of you are captured in this on TV. You want to be seen, eh? So I want to make sure that the people in your village see you so when you contest the next time for an elective position, they don't ask you who are you. Eh? Okay, Becky, the intergenerational debate that is gaining a lot of momentum. How are young people ready for such a debate, and how do we foster this meaningful engagement?
Thank you, Maurice. I think the readiness is not yet available, and I call upon young women to take the lead in ensuring that intergenerational dialogue takes place, because it's one way we build trust and also create capacity for us to continue to even the youngest child. We can take it up to nursery level. One of the other things I want to note is that since the police is here, I have interacted with the police. But who is interacting with the police at the local level? The grassroots woman. It's always duka all the time. And also you see that there is a lack of engenderedness in it. We're only having the 3 males. Who are the ones that are speaking for the young women in police? What do the young women want to see? And one of the things I want to urge the police is to ensure that there is rehabilitation of traumatized young women in the police force. We have young men in the police force that are using drugs, that are high, that come to police, also the high youth, and in the long run we see what the media portrays. We also ask the media to be the board, the bridge that comes in and shows where we need to go as a country. The extremist ideologies that are propagandized by both the youth and their leaders affect the young women differently. That is why you see young women do not want to participate in the elections, they don't want to be campaign agents, they even don't want to be leaders. But if we are to have an engendered country in the democratic processes of Uganda, we have to remove all these obstacles. But I also want to call upon the young women to take charge. Nobody's going to give us these spaces. We have to take charge of them, and if there is no seat at the table, bring your own seat and sit on it, and hold the leaders accountable. And also ensure that in your community you're the champion of this intergenerational dialogue. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I want to go to Mulindwa Walid Lubega. Where is Mulindwa? Is there? Mulindwa, where are you there? Okay, yes. I need to mention that Mulindwa is the national chairperson FDC Youth League, right? I should have noted from the color of your tie. The opportunities that exist in the political space for you to be able to participate in leadership, and how you can increase this youth participation in leadership and contesting for these leadership positions. Yes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate FOAC and the Embassy of Sweden for this wonderful democratic discourse. My name is Mulindwa Walid Lubega. I speak for the FDC. I'm the FDC National Youth League chairman. In our own arrangement as a party, as FDC, we are looking at Leadership Academy as one of our core facets. I mean in terms of capacity building. Leadership Academy, we set up a leadership academy towards the election last year, and the academy will run for the rest of the life of FDC. The major aim of the academy, one, is to train young leaders in terms of leadership, to appreciate the roles, to appreciate the capacity and so on. So in that, we have 3 facets in the academy, 3 layers. One, the first one is about identification. We have identified young leaders through institutions of higher learning, through their communities, the villages, the grassroots where these young leaders come from. The second facet is about training. We mentor them according to their own needs, because we have leaders who have never gone to school. We have leaders who are graduates. So we segment them according to their own needs and capacity. And we give them the appropriate training. After the training, the last facet is deployment. We deploy our own young leaders accordingly. If a young leader, his or her own capacity is about being a counselor, that is the area where we train, we mold the young leader to be. If you were a parliamentary material and the party spots in you that the capacity you have, you can be able to articulate in the national parliament, we do exactly that. If you are a local government district chairperson, the same. So that is the best. We have put a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of resources in this. And I think we already have results for this.
Yes.
When you look at the national parliament, almost half of it, of our members in the national parliament are young people, and they have gone through this kind of arrangement. Secondly,
30 seconds.
As I wind up, is about the young people being part of the decision-making table. For us as FDC, we believe young people shouldn't be like peg boys, shouldn't be listening posts. We have a deliberate effort of zoning. Even in our own constitution, there is a provision for young people to occupy all positions of leadership, from the National Executive Committee, just like I sit, to the village level, where our leaders come from, such that in every organ of the party, the voice of the young people is heard. It is not, the young people are not looked at as the people to clap for the elders when they speak, but also they are given opportunity to showcase their own potential, and their own interests are respected and catered for. So I appeal to all other organizations to put the young people at the forefront. As I wind up, to the police, Comrade Ogwen was talking about the image. I think if police want to improve the image, its own image, as you enforce the law, please try as much as possible to have a human face while you are enforcing law and order.
Right.
When you come with that kind of violence and whatever, even the public will have that kind of perception, and it will last for long.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lubega. Human face. I think what's here today is with a human face. I need to mention all the officers here look very handsome. I'm not sure whether when they're here they're smiling. When we meet outside, it's going to be okay. That is not me. That is Lubega. Okay. Shadrach Ezama, he's a peace ambassador from Kampala. Let's just continue the conversation Lubega started on youth being visibly active during elective period. How do you keep this momentum even after elections?
Thank you very much, Maurice. Before I would give you answers, allow me kindly cite a few gaps that we see should be fixed.
Very quickly.
Before election times, in normal days, what should be done to us? There are very many gaps when we talk democracy. First of all, there's no democracy in our homes. Our African fathers are not democratic. This is very true.
So that is where the problem begins, okay.
Yes, and this mostly, I think it's boys facing it. We don't actually sit at tables to negotiate with dads, so we're affected at all levels.
So you're a listening post from home. Okay.
Thank you. Now, there's no democracy in civil societies. I think most of us here are civil servants. There's no democracy in your offices. You do not favor your subjects. If your boss is here, you don't listen to youth. At times, it's only old people in your offices, people of 70, 65, 80 years. Please try to consider the youth there. Then in forces, there's no democracy at all, because forces, it's an order that you must observe. I don't think a young policeman has anything to say to a boss like Mr. Gweng. No. He won't say anything because he's not allowed. He has no rank. So you people need to listen to these guys so that even us were favored. Then in religious entities, it's lacking. Are we together? I know we fear religion, but the truth is democracy is lacking somewhere in religion, and if there are religious leaders, you need to give youth your ear. Then in politics, whether the opposition or the government, there's no democracy that we're realizing. If it's there, it is situational. Like it comes during that time of elections. When there are no elections, you people do not even, like, we don't feel anything that is political. The politics are for our granddads up there, our uncles, and we're simply Bazukulu. Okay, I'm not taking... I am not taking any sides, but this is a fact. This is a fact. And then...
Lubega, he's protected, Lubega, okay.
In the media also, we feel like, someone talked about it, we are the dancers, you get. We are brought to entertain, I don't know, people. But even being dancers, we are dancers of some rich old people. They are companies, you get. So we're not feeling any sense of democracy for us. I mean, all sectors here need improvement. But anyway, I would like to give you just a simple example. I come from one of the sketos. A sketo is a ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Just this morning...
How is a sketo different? When you say sketo is a ghetto,
yes.
So why is it a sketo and the other is... And it's within the ghetto?
The sketo is the original word for ghetto.
Okay.
Italian, from Italy.
I was just trying to make sure you explain that.
Okay. So I have this neighbor who is older than me, who is also a youth. And he told me, Ashidrak, now this is your smartness, where are you going today? And I told him, I think I was smart to him today, compared to other days. I told him I'm going to Africana, I have some function. And he says, you going to Africana? It's not possible. His mindset was, he's a barber in town. His mindset was that I am actually too young to come and sit in Africana with people of your kind, and then we discuss. And the guy was all surprised that I'm in a necktie. I think he's not used to seeing me that way. Then he says, okay, let's go. Although you're lying, let's go, we shall see. And I told him, tune to NTV, you're going to watch me.
Now he's watching.
I'm sure he's watching. Now, for me,
that is the platform we want you to own. Yes.
Thank you. The interpretation here is, this guy has been killed psychologically. His esteem is gone. He feels like, I'm too young to be on TV and discuss democracy with people of your kind. So he's given up his life to work in the streets. Perhaps he's going to do that forever. How about the people in his lineage? How will they be like? So we need to look at these sectors I'm talking about so that we correct, that generational problem that is coming.
All right.
Now, solutions, very quick ones.
30 seconds.
Okay. Number one, civic education. The content, people talked about it, but for me, the content is the concern. I mean, patriotism. Can we teach patriotism? There are some of us youth, we know what to do, but we don't love the country. You get? We don't love the country. We need to be taught patriotism and how to love it. Then peace, we need our peace. There's too much poverty. We can't be peaceful when there's poverty. No way. So we need that. We need the jobs, we need money, we need, income to grow in our pockets, in the pockets of our parents. And government has these powers to do this. Then we need recognition of our fundamental rights. We need to be cared for, health-wise, academically. There are many Ugandans who are very bright youth, but we are not cherished. Yeah, we can go academically and go miles, respect for the quality of every youth. We have our qualities. We need to be respected. When we come to the table, do not blackmail us because someone is capable of challenging the other. He's simply put aside. You get? So let's promote the quality of everyone here.
All right.
And then individual freedom, we need that. We must be free at an individual level. Not that when we're in public, then someone capable is at their homes, they are attacked. As youth, we need to be free.
All right.
Yes?
We need to move on.
We
Shadrach?
don't need to be represented by elders. There are many entities that say they are youth, but they are not actually youth in
All right.
practice.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Decisions are
Shadrach.
made by the old.
All right. Thank you, Shadrach. Thank you so much. And to your Baba who thought you were unserious, I guess you get a free service the next time you go to the Baba. I wanted to invite Charity Nisima. Charity is here. Charity is a peace ambassador. Female youth participation. How can we bring more young women into this conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much.
We want to see your beautiful face. Since you're alone, it's okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
The mask, we are making sure we can, yes. And come here, so we can actually, yeah, I see Robina, my boss, is asking. She wants to see you, yes.
My name, as earlier stated, is Charity Nisima. Charity Fiona Nisima. I'm from Ntungamo district and a peace builder under Peace Builders Coalition, mentored by Coalition for Action on 1325. Concerning female participation in democratic processes, I would like to first note that the females actually face similar problems as those faced by the males, only that they have other problems they face in regard to their gender. We have to note that women participation in Ugandan elections is still low, however much there are constitutional frameworks that have been put in place to assure gender equality for all of us to participate. And I would also like to take cognizance of the fact that there are people who have come up to support women, to uplift women, to empower and mentor women into taking part in these processes. And I would like to appreciate them for that. And in addition to what they are doing, I would like us to also help in encouraging ourselves as women, encouraging our peers, encouraging our fellows to believe in themselves, to build their self-esteem, and not always, it is not always necessary to play the gender card, as long as you believe in yourself and believe that you can take part in any position you would like to. And also, would like to implement affirmative action in rural areas, despite the fact that people in urban areas are well informed about their rights and all. The people in rural areas have not had the opportunity to learn or be informed about what their rights are, constitutional rights, human rights, and all. So you find that there is a curtain barring them from taking part in certain things because they are ignorant about them. So I think implementation of affirmative action can also help in bringing up the women in these processes. Then also, I would like to also encourage whoever is in position to protect and defend the rights of women, especially against early marriages, also sexually and gender-based violence, to continue the drive to make sure that these women are catered for and they are able to participate in democratic processes as well as other aspects of life. Yeah, and improving their education, holding these such workshops, such talks in rural areas, extend countrywide. These services would also be helpful in the same issue. And I do not intend to trigger any emotions, but then if it was possible, women or a woman would have been also included on the panel to inspire other young women.
All
yes,
right.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for
Okay.
listening to me.
I was about to chase you from the floor. Are you concluding? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me, and I urge all of us to support our fellow women, support our peers in our fellow youth, to support the youth. Not, for example, if our fellow contested for a member of parliament post, you do not have to overlook them and say, you cannot afford it, you cannot manage. Instead, look at their agenda, advise them where accordingly, and push them, because we are all fighting for leaders in youth in leadership positions, and it wouldn't be nice if we are not walking that talk.
All right. Well done. Well done. Thank you, Fiona. And I want to invite Ivan Mwebembeze. He's the leader, Youth Unveil Uganda. Where is Ivan? He's here. Okay. A community-based organization in Kabarole. Okay. On the role of youth-led community-based organizations in this process. Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Ivan Mwembezi, like he introduced. I'm the leader of Youth Unveil Uganda, a youth-led CBO in Karole district under the guidance of COACT 1325. I'm going to discuss the role of local level youth-led CBOs in promoting youth engagement in democratic processes. Firstly, I would say that CBOs, they have a role to positively affect the process of rural change through development. CBOs are made up of community members who are aiming at programs trying to improve on their health, nutrition, literacy status, and increase their income. These programs directly enable youth to participate in elections and be bold about democracy. As Oliver Wendell Holmes said, man's mind, once stretched to a new idea, never goes back to its original dimensions. In this regard, civic education. CBOs in the local level have a role to play in localizing the youth's access to civic knowledge, their rights and responsibilities. And once one's mind is stretched by an idea about human rights, the spark will not allow it to regain its original dimension of marginalization. Thereon, we have an increase of voter turnout, participation in elections, and people seeking justice. Therefore, CBOs play a role in improving youth confidence in democracy and justice. Again, CBOs have a role to play in strengthening society and state relations. CBOs have attained a reasonable degree of legitimacy among the poor and marginalized. In Uganda, for example, we have 1.8 million people living in poverty as of 2021, a fallback because of COVID. CBOs are a bridge between society and state, starting from state representatives at the local level. For example, if you'd register a CBO, you'd have to go to the DCDO and have a direct engagement of the things you're going to do. You're taking there your constitution. There's a follow-up at the end of like 6 months. So with this, from this perspective, the relationship between citizens and the state agency are stronger over the period. And then lastly, there is an intention to act as democracy and peace ambassadors. CBO's engagement with institutions of government like the police, we have them today, direct engagement with NGOs, like we know COACT groomed CBOs like the one I lead in Kabrole. These programs directly avail the youth leaders with civic knowledge. Programs like these empower democracy and peace ambassadors at local levels. During elections, we had activities like talking on radio. We had groups of youth, for example, borders. We had people that weren't in school, and we were peace ambassadors in our individual districts. So we believe CBOs have a role to play, and we are continuing to thank NGOs and the government institutions for supporting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ivan. Again, listen, if you want to share these conversations with your friends, please use the YouTube link that is available. It will be shared by COACT. You are able to share with as many youth to listen to these fantastic ideas young people are sharing with us this afternoon. And before I come back to some of our district representatives, I wanted to ask Agnes Nisima, a lead peace builder for the coalition that is based in Ntungamo. We were in West, now we are going Southwest. Youth in urban centers, we consider them elite. I don't know if you describe yourself as elite. How do we youth in the rural communities, how do we get them active in politics?
Thank you. My name is Nisima Agnes, and leader Peace Builders Coalition, a CBO in Ntungamo district. And I'm happy to be part of this as a youth. And
oh, you had forgotten to show us your face. My apologies.
Okay. As a youth who has been into this and who has practiced leadership and have been engaged in politics, at least I was among the youth who participated in our previous elections. I contested as an MP for Ntungamo municipality. There I lost, but I'm glad I learned, I experienced, and I know next time I'll win because it was a journey and a step. So going back to my point of discussion, youth who are in urban centers and those considered elite are more active than youth in rural communities. Why is it so? And what can be done to bring them on board? So youth in urban centers are more exposed. We all know youth in urban centers have access to information. Their levels of interaction with people is high compared to the youth in rural areas. For example, my fellow youth in Ntungamo, you can't compare them to the youth we have in urban centers. We have here in Kampala, because they have access, they can talk. Most of them have smartphones, which is not the case in rural areas, where they can see information, where they can see what is happening. So what can be done is we can increase awareness, like COACT is doing. It has done a lot for us. We've been learning, and what we learn, we take it back to our fellow youth in our areas. We've had talk shows on Radio Ankole, people in Ntungamo know. We were election observers, where people were surprised to see we young people participate. And it was a big thing. Someone looking at you, they think you're a normal person like them, but you're talking to the police around. They're like, what happened? What is she doing? So that is a step taken. If such things happen more and more, to more districts, we can see youth more active and participating. And another thing is community activities and letting youth volunteer in everything. Most times, most projects don't favor the youth. We've seen, like, it happens at district levels. We see people on committees. You find very few youth. You find old people. Youth are not given a platform to speak. They are neglected. And if youth were given a platform to talk for their fellows, you might find this could reduce on the rate at which these people demonstrate. Because most times, youth demonstrate because they are not heard. They feel when you demonstrate, your voice is going to be heard, and what you want is going to be given to you in time. Not like you talk and people listen and they don't act.
Okay.
So that's what I urge the civil society organizations, the police, and all bodies to work hand in hand with the youth, because we are good people, surely. People think we are always violent and always fighting and running on the streets, but it is not. It is because we are desperate.
Okay.
Youth are unemployed. They have nothing to do. So they think when they demonstrate, something will be done.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I should have prepared myself. You've already joined politics, so I should have managed my time. I honestly have to close this because TV time is not elastic, I have been told. But I thought without having somebody from a space we all sometimes ignore, it would be unfair. So where is Karunji Sylvia? She will be speaking to us on behalf of the persons with disabilities. Yes, Sylvia?
Thank you very much. One of the things that people with disabilities, I actually heard the very first speakers. Everybody was talking about inclusive planning. But if there is anybody who has not been planned for, is a person with a disability, especially in democracy issues. Because look at somebody who is blind, look at somebody who is deaf. How best can they vote, especially at the grassroots levels? Myself, I'm a victim of not voting. I remember people usually say that trust only your heart. I usually trust my heart because I cannot believe anyone can help me vote. Everybody has his or her own need. So if I tell him, help me vote this, she will vote somebody else because I cannot see her and I cannot see the paper. So there is a need for a government, even the private sector, the religious sector, to work hard to see how people with disabilities can exercise voting. When the speaker, Gerard, was talking, he talked about double discrimination. I thought, usually when I speak, I usually say double discrimination. Now I thought, what could I call it? Triple, quadruple, because I am young, I am a woman, and I am one living with a disability. So that brings it all to, I think, triple or quadruple discrimination. Like COACT, it has helped people with disabilities sit at times with some of the state ambassadors. Even here, I believe I'm with people of high priorities. And they have always helped us. They have always helped us to at least exercise our issues and to see that issues of persons with disabilities at least are put down. When I heard Mr. Francis talking, I heard him saying, a youth wing at the police. My humble request is one. How I wish the private sector, the religious sector, and the public sector would at least every office have a disability desk. Do not just employ, those who have disability desks, we have seen them employ people who are even blue, they don't know anything about disability. But trust me, brethren, we have a number of now disability persons who are well educated, with degrees, with masters, and they can very well do these jobs. Lastly, when I heard Gerard talking about that we have some things to celebrate, I thought, I looked back in my village and some of our villages here. I don't know whether people with disabilities in these villages have something to celebrate when it comes to USE and UPE. Because very many of the schools are miles away from our homes. Imagine somebody using a wheelchair, and even this person doesn't have a wheelchair. Because very many people with disabilities in our villages do not have white canes, do not have access to the materials to use. So it's my humble request to people here and the government at large that there is still a big, big gap that is need to be done, especially in the democratic issues and processes within our country for people with disabilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much. And I want to appreciate you and appreciate all the contribution from the young people. I wish I had time, but the TV time is not elastic and they have to sign out. And so we will continue our conversation on our social media platforms, but thank everyone who's been part of this conversation. And I wish I also had a minute, so as we let the TV audience go, I wish I had a minute to allow Waswa and my colleague Robert to say something, but I want to go to my guest here, our guest here, to speak on behalf of government.